At the outset, let me thank NGB Institute, Dr. NGB Institute, its principal, HOD, and Mr. Rahul, who actually helped me to come into this session through our associate directors, Mr. A. Venkatesan and Dr. D. Tirunyanamurthy. So let me thank all of you, and very warm good afternoon to all the participants. Actually, the topic has been very, very nice. The theme of the topic, all the topics, all the speakers I have been going through. Unfortunately, I could not attend because our office is working, and today I have taken off and I have come. But the theme is very relevant today, and I am introducing another concept. It is just booming in Western countries right now, even in Australia. India, it is yet to pick up quantum computers, but it has a tremendous potential in machine learning. Today my talk, what I am going to cover is only to give a flavor, the tremendous potential of the quantum computer, and how it in future it will be more helpful for machine learning and other purposes. So to drive that point, I have taken a small, an example problem, which can be handled by quantum computer very easily, whereas our conventional digital computers cannot do anything on that. This is about RSA encryption, which is the main workhorse of the security transaction over internet, what we have been using for all our banking transactions and even for other strategic things. So the idea of this talk will go like this. I'll give the problem first so that you will appreciate how hard this problem to crack in normal digital computer and how easy it is for quantum computer to crack, so that you will understand the potential of a quantum computer. But the problem here is the quantum computer, when we have to introduce, we cannot give a justice by giving only one lecture, because it involves a lot of deep quantum physics concept. I myself, being a physicist, I will be enjoying to convey all those things, but this being a popular lecture for only 1.5 hours, I cannot do justice for the entire quantum physics concept. But nevertheless, I will use a very analogical way. I will try to give a lot of analogy from where we know about other technologies and how it is connected to the quantum computer, or how it can be related. There may be a lot of approximate crude analogies, but however, it will drive the point. That is how I have organized this lecture. I have tried to avoid a lot of this Schrodinger wave equation or second order differential equations. That will be very difficult without classroom board and the chalk piece. It will be difficult to drive. It is a popular lecture. I will use analogies and try to do the lecture. So let me first introduce what is RSA encryption. Most of you may be aware. It is actually an abbreviation of the first letter of the 3 computer scientists who have actually invented this algorithm for encryption. This is called asymmetric encryption. Actually, if you say the encryption, there are 2 kinds. One is symmetric and another is asymmetric. For example, symmetric means the way it is encrypted, it is only the reverse way to decrypt. For example, if you want to send some data, say suppose you want to send a number, you just multiply by 5 and send. So the receiver can just divide by 5 and take back the original message. It is called a symmetric encoding. The way it is encoded, the same reverse way if you do, it will be encrypted. The key is same, only the algorithm will be working in the reverse direction. But in asymmetric encryption, it is completely 2 different things. For encryption, you use a key, and for decryption, you use another key. They 2 together complementarily only complete the process. One cannot reverse the other. You cannot go back and find out. It is like a circular. The encryption will take it to some point, then decryption will further take it to another point, make it as a circle and reach the original destination. So it is very difficult to crack the code. Especially, I will project some of the numbers which are being used. A typical big number which are being actually used for our encryption technologies. If it is to be cracked by our digital computers, the fastest digital computers in the world, it will take hundreds of years. It is intractable. It takes hundreds of years, but it takes only few minutes in quantum computer. So at the outset, I give you the feel for that difference between digital computer and quantum computer, what quantum computer can do. So as I said, asymmetric encryption, it uses two keys for encryption one and decryption another, which is conventionally or very normally called as public key and private key. In banking transactional, it is called public key and private key. They used to say public private key encryption algorithm. So it is just to say about what is an RSA. Now I project a screen which actually tells how a message is encoded and decoded again. And I don't expect any of you to understand from this screen itself. It's a bit difficult normally when you go to any browse website and try to find out what is RSA algorithm. This example will be there. Nevertheless, I project this so that you get a feel. In the subsequent slides, I will make you to understand this thing. In this screen, if you see M being the message to be sent, and E, the M is raised to the power E, that is encrypted key or public key or private key, whatever, one of the keys. Public and private keys are complementary. If one is used for encryption, another can be used for decryption. Here E, we will say encryption key. These three parallel bars, as you know, it is a congruent symbol. That means M to the power E, a number, message, or a string which is raised to the power E, and when it's divided by n, mod n, modular arithmetic, when it is divided by n, it leaves remainder C. So what they do is, the message to be sent is raised to the power E and divided by a big number n, and it leaves a remainder C. That is called the ciphered text. It is an encoded text that is sent to the other end. In the other end, on receiving that ciphered text C, they raise it to the power D. That is called decryption key. And when they divide it by modular n, then it leaves a remainder which is the original text. So the key which is used E is not reversely used in the decryption. It is not 1 by E or something which is used in the reverse way to get the original message. So original message, when it is sent, if somebody has tampered, then automatically whatever you decrypt, you will not get it. So this way, this protects the secured transaction. Now from the first two lines, we will take some number examples. The small n is a big number. Actually, it is a product of two very big prime numbers. In this case, we have taken only small prime numbers, 61 and 53. The product of 61 and 53 is 3233, 3233. That is now taken as small n. And the next line, you don't, in the entire slide, if you don't understand, don't worry. In the next and subsequent slide, you will understand it very clearly. This is to have a feel only. The next line, what states Carmichael torsion function. And now you just assume that it works like this. P minus 1 times Q minus 1 LCM, if you take, you get, that is 61 and 53. 61 minus 1, 60, and 53 minus 1, 52. For 60 and 52, if you take LCM, that leaves remainder, 780 as a result. So you take any number or a product of two numbers, D and E. These are the two encryption decryption keys. That when it is divided by that lambda of 323, that is the torsion of 3233, that is 780. It leaves a remainder. It gives a remainder 1. Then that becomes a true encryption decryption key. Okay. I once again say, you don't worry if you don't understand these things so far. It is only to give a feeling. Next slide onwards, you'll understand. Now, if you take this last two lines, 65 is the message to be sent. We have got two numbers, 17 and 413 as E and D. So 65 is raised to 17. And when it is divided by 3233, then it leaves remainder 2790. So our original intention is to send the text or the number 65, but we have encrypted and sent that as 2790. On the other end, this 2790 is raised to the power 413. The 17 and 413 are, I said, encryption key and decryption key. So 413 here is a decryption key. It is now raised to 4113. And when it is divided by 3233, it leaves remainder 65. That is the original intended message, actual message without encryption. So this is how it works. It is a magic now, right now. You raise to some power, divide by some number, you get a remainder. And that remainder, if you raise to the another number, and once again you divide by that big number, and then once again you are getting back the original number. Now we'll take another smaller example so that we can grasp the things very easily. Instead of 61 and 53, now we will take three small prime numbers, 3 and 11. So this product of these two prime numbers, we will get 3 into 11, 33. And now, as I said, the totient function is taking a LCM, least common multiple of that 3 minus 1 and 11 minus 1, that is 2 and 10. The LCM of 2 and 10 is 10. Now we must get two numbers. The product of two numbers should be such a way that it should leave remainder 1 when it is divided by this lambda of 33. Lambda of 33 is 10, the LCM of 2 and 10. So we get a number 3 and 7. Okay, the original 3, P and Q, 3 and 11 is different. Here also, incidentally, one of the D and E number is 3 and 7. So 3 into 7 is 21. When it is divided by 10, it leaves a remainder 1. 2 into 10, 10, then 20, then it leaves a remainder 1. So our encryption decryption keys are 3 and 7. Suppose we want to send the message 2. So raise 2 to the power of 3 and divide by 33 and get the remainder. That is 2 power 3 is 8. When it is divided by 33, integer division, so it leaves a remainder 8. So the 8 is a cybered text. That is encrypted text that is now sent to the other side. The other side, they raise this 8, whatever they receive. They raise this 8 to the power of 7. 7 is a decryption key. Then they get a big number, 2097152. That when it is divided by 33, it leaves remainder 2. That is the original text is got. So I have explained the same thing. If it is another example, I have instead of 2, I have sent a message with number 3. 3 power 3 is 27. Then 27, when it is raised to 7 decryption key, you get 3 answers. So 2 examples I have taken with the number 2 and with the number 3 for the same encryption and decryption key. To give some analogy how it works, it's like most of you would have used safe lockers in bank. So if you go, the banker will open the lock with his key. So he turns to some level, then you go with your key and turns it to further some level, then only it opens. So he takes it to some halfway, then from there you are taking it to the another halfway, then it completes the process to so that the circular is finished and you get back the original thing. So it is giving only the analogy. So this is an example, 2 examples I have given, but what is the math behind that? The math behind that is a modular arithmetic. And there was a famous theorem, Fermat's little theorem long back. If any number A, if it is raised to a prime number P, and if it is divided by the prime number, it leaves the remainder the same number. So this is the actual mathematical fact. For any number, when it is raised to a prime number P, and if it is divided by the same prime number, it leaves remainder A. Or if that number is raised to the prime number minus 1, just 1 minus the prime number, then it leaves the remainder 1. So this is actually our understanding. I mean, for all our RS encryption, this is the key. Only thing, Fermat's little theorem talked only for the prime numbers, but Euler generalized that it need not be a prime number. So long as A and P are co-prime, it is sufficient. So what he did is, if A is raised to some number, it need not be prime number. If that number and A are co-prime, that is, for example, if you take a number 10, it is not a prime number. It has a lot of divisibles. 2 can be divided, 2 is a divisor, 5 is a divisor, like that. But still, there are some numbers which are not divided, which are not divisible of 10, like 1, 3, 7, 9. So even if you have such numbers, even then need not be a prime. If it is a co-prime, if it is sufficient, it goes. That is what Euler's generalization. So there is a period. Every time when you raise to the prime number, then it leaves the remainder A. Again, if you raise it further, once again it goes for a period, then once again it leaves the remainder A. So this periodicity is what is used for RSA encryption. Now we will come how it works. You take an example. Now we will take number A equal to 3. And 4 different prime numbers we will take. 5, 7, 11, 13. First we will take 5. So now we are raising A to the power 1. That is 3 to the power 1, 3. and divided by 5, it leaves the remainder 3. The next line, next row, if you see 3 power 2, that is 3 square, that is 9. When it is divided by 5, it leaves remainder 4. Third row, that is 3 power 3, 27. When it is divided by 5, it leaves remainder 2. So 5 5s are 25, it leaves remainder 2. And 3 power 4, if you take it, it's 81. When it is divided by 5, then it leaves remainder 1. 3 power 5, if you take, that is 5 is a prime number, I said. Up to 5 minus 1, that is 4. Row 1, a power 1, a power 2, a power 3, a power 4. That is 3 power 1, 3 power 2, 3 power 3, 3 power 4. The remainders were 3, 4, 2, 1. Once again, when you raise to 3 power 5, the prime number itself, and divide by 5, it leaves the same number 3. That is the fifth row. 3 power 5 is 243. When it is divided by 5, it leaves remainder 3. That is what the Fermat's principle said. Once again, if you raise it further, 3 power 6, that is 729. When it is divided by 5, it leaves remainder 4. If you see the pattern, 3, 4, 2, 1, 3, 4, 2, 1, 3, 4, 2, 1 is the remainder you get. Every time you raise 3 power 1, 3 power 2, 3 power 3, if you go on increasing also, after 4 rows, once again it folds back. It is repeating the same thing. This is what we saw in the Fermat's theorem. That is a power p, or the next line, if you take a power p minus 1, in this case p is 5, no? So 5 minus 1, 4. 4 is the periodicity. For every first 4, at the end of the fourth line, it will get remainder 1. So 3, 4, 2, 1, 3, 4, 2, 1. If you take the third column, p equal to 7, that is prime number 7, you will see that periodicity for the same a when raised, that is a is 3, 3 when it is raised to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3 power 6 is 729. When it is divided by 7, it leaves remainder 1. After that, once again, the same pattern repeats. That remainder, if you see in the third column, where p equal to 7, I have written 3, 2, 6, 4, 5, 1, 3, 2, 6, 4, 5, 1. So this number, whenever you raise power 1 to n, that is up to, this is 7 is the prime number, no? 7 minus 1, up to 6, it has a periodicity, 3, 2, 6, 4, 5, 1. Again, if you raise it further, the same periodicity, same pattern repeats, 3, 2, 6, 4, 5, 1. This is a generic pattern. You take any number, even 11, 13, if you go on take, there is always a periodicity. But only thing is, these numbers need not be following some pattern which can be put in any mathematical equation. 3, 2, 6, 4, 5, 1. In what order it is coming, that you cannot predict. That is how this number theory works. But always a prime number has this feature. Any number, when it is raised to powers and divided by prime number, it repeats after prime number minus 1 times. Then this pattern repeats. And as I said, it need not be a prime number. Only Fermat said it is prime number. Then Euler generalized it. And okay, one more example we'll take. We will take prime number common, but a different a's. That is number 2, number 3, and number 6. We will take an example. The prime number being the same 7. So 2 power 1, 2, 2 power 2, 4, 2 power 3, 8, 2 power 4, 16, like that it goes on. So 2 power 6 is 64. That when it is divided by the prime number 7, you will get a remainder 1. 9 7s are 63, and you get a remainder 1. Similarly, in the third column, a equal to 3 case also, if you take 3 power 6 is 729. When it is divided by 7, 728 is a divisor of, it is divisible by 7, then it leaves a remainder 1. So after 6 rows, that is 7 is your prime number, 7 minus 1 is 6. For 6, the period is 6 for in prime number 7. After that, once again, it becomes 1 remainder. Once again, if you go further 7, that is a power 7, a power 8, a power 9, like that. Once again, the remainder will come like that. I have not shown the remainder here. I have shown only the power, raised power value only. If you divide by 7, the remainder will come. So, these two examples of our prime numbers. Now we will take an example for co-prime. Now the number n is not prime number p. It is a 10. It is an integer. It is a composite number. It is not a prime number. But still, we said no. For 10, there are 4 numbers which are co-prime to it. 1, 3, 7, and 9. They are all not divisors. So we have 4 such numbers. So if you take this as your equivalent to prime number, the periodicity will be 4. There, the prime number, the periodicity will be prime number minus 1, because all the numbers below prime numbers are co-prime to prime number. None of them is divisible. They have a common divisor with the prime number. That is why that number itself is called prime number. So whereas a composite number like 10, it is not a prime number though, but still what are the numbers which are still co-prime to number 10? So many numbers, how many numbers are there? That becomes a period. There are 4 numbers. I'm not talking about the number 4. There are 4 numbers, number 1, 3, 7, 9. These are the numbers which don't have any common divisor with 10. So such number of such numbers becomes a period for this function. Instead of prime number, I said period will be prime number minus 1. Here it will be this totient of 10 is 4. So 4 will be the prime period. Now you will take an example. The same A, we will take 3. 3 when it is raised to 1 and divided by 10, you get 3 remainder. 3 power square. 3 square when it is divided by 10, you get a 9. And 3 power 3, 27. That also remainder I have not listed, 27. The fourth row, if you see 81, I have put 3 power 4 is 81. When it is divided by 10, it leaves remainder 1. So this repeats after if you another 4 row, if you go, that is a power 8. 3 power 8 is 6, 5, 6, 1. That also leaves the remainder 1. So here the periodicity will be 4. In the prime number, it is just the prime number minus 1. Here, for the number composite number, what and the periodicity is based on the number of co-primes to that number. So these two are, though slightly mathematical, I have avoided the formula and given us a tabular result forms so that you can easily understand. So how this modular exponential works actually? This is what it has. Actually, there is a lot of mathematical formula for modular exponentiation. If you search some good books or even in Google, if you search, you will get it. I have given only an example with tabulated results. So we will take A as 3 power 1 divided. I mean, if this mod of 5 we are using here, it leaves remainder 3. There are 3 columns I have shown. First column, it will say the previous, it's in your original encryption example, RSA encryption example, I said message is raised to some power and divided by this big number, composite number, which has factors of 2 prime number, and it leaves a remainder. So remainder only is sent to the other side. And the other side, the remainder is now raised to the remaining power, that is decryption level number power. So actually what we have sent is remainder. See, if you see, these examples, what here shows 3 power 1, 3 leaves the remainder 3, 3 power 2 leaves remainder 4, 3 power 3 leaves remainder 2, 3 power 4 leaves the remainder 1. Again 3 power 5 leaves remainder the same number 3, which is the original number. So it is like a cyclic. Now what I have sent is I have gone up to some level, 3 power 3. 27 leaves the remainder 2 I have sent to the other person. Now he is raising the number, raising the power only to the 2, not to the original text 3. Even with the remainder, if he raise the power and continue, he will end up with the result. So that is how it works. In both ways it works. The original text itself, if you take it to the period, you raise to the power of the equivalent period, then divide by the number, you will get the result. Or halfway you leave the remainder and send to the other person. He carries the remaining process on the remainder, not on the original number. Then also it works. That is the beauty of this modular exponential. That is what I have tabulated here. First, AA mod 5 means previous results of remainder into current number. Once again I am multiplying. That also 3. If you only take the number without further mod 5, 3, 9, 12, 1, like that it goes on. Second column, after remainder 3, 4, 2, 1, 3, 4, 2, 1. So what happened is, the second column, if you watch, it is the remainder multiplied by the 3 again, then get the divide by 5. You get the same thing. Or the last column is like directly raising a power to that number. A power already raised a power I. One more a if you multiply by, that is a power I plus 1. And divide by 5, then also it leaves the remainder same. That is the key to the RSA encryption algorithm, how it works. That is why when you even send the remainder, and if you further process it, you will get the result. Okay. So this is another example I have given. Now after understanding also you can easily follow 3 into 11, the same number 3 and 11 we have used. If you take the examples down here, 2 power 3, that is 2 when it is raised to power 3, it leaves a remainder 8 when divided by 33. And that 8 remainder is sent to the other person. When he raises 8 to the power 7, he gets a big number. And this, if you really see how it goes, this is how it goes. So 2 is raised to power 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 row. If you come, whatever the result comes. Sorry, 2 power 3. Third, 1, 2, 3. 8 he is getting as a cyber text. And he is sending 8 to the next person. Now the next person raising 8. Now he is only taking the power 8 onwards only. He doesn't know that the original message was 2. So only from remainder he is working. Only thing he is continuing with 8, the decryption key of 7. So if you see 2 power 3, 3 is encryption key. So the sender has encrypted the value 2 by raising it to 3 and divided by 33 and send the remainder as 8. The receiver has received 8 and he is raising that 8 instead of the original 2. This remainder 8 he is raising to the power 8, power 7. So in this column, if you see 7th row, 8 power 7, when it is divided by 33, it leaves the remainder 2. So the entire formula I have worked out, tabulated and given the result. So, okay, it is slightly mathematical so far, nothing about concept and all. It is only to give you a feeling that, one more example I will give. This encryption decryption key can be reversed also. Suppose you raise to power 7. Suppose if you use 2 as 7 as encryption key, then you get 7th row. If you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that is 62, 29. The remainder will be 29. So now in 3 and 7 were encryption and decryption keys. It can be used reverse way. That's what I'm explaining here. Initially, he used 3 as encryption key. So he got cyber text as 8 and sent to the other fellow. He worked on 8 by raising it to 7 and divided by 33 and got the original message 2. Instead, suppose that first fellow has used 7 as the encryption key instead of 3. So 2 power 7 he raises and get the remainder 29 and sends to the other person. So 29 now it is raised to remaining, that is 3. You reverse the keys. No? So now it is original encryption key 3 is now used as a decryption key. So now 29 you raise to the power 3 and divided by 33, you will get the remainder 2. So it works both way. Encryption decryption key can be, that is why in the public and private key, when it is distributed, the public key can be used for encryption sent to the private person. He can use that, his key, private key, for decryption and get the message. And whatever he wants to send from there, he can use that key as an encryption key and send here. And he can use the original encryption key as a decryption key now and decrypt the data what is sent by the private side of the communication. So far this is okay. The only point is, as I said, now we have used with the very, very small integers and small prime numbers and all. A prime numbers of 100 digit and 2 prime numbers, if they are multiplied and get a very big composite number, to get a factor and find out P and Q. See, this RSA encryption works just with a very brutal force that this cannot be factored easily by computers. When you use a very large prime numbers, it takes hundreds and hundreds of years to break such a huge number, which is a composite number of two prime factors. Very difficult, hard, really. And you say an NP hard problem and all you would have heard in computer science. It's hard, and it takes hundreds of years for any normal digital computers in the world today to break the key. It's such a huge. Only so the entire algorithm, the entire security of our whatever we transact, just the algorithm is very, very simple. But to factor such a big number, it takes hundreds of years. So we rely only on that hardness of this problem. And then what is the problem? Some problems may be very hard from one principle, but it can be very easily broken by completely different principle. So factoring such a hard number is very, very difficult in these circumstances. Maybe we have to fundamentally look in a different way to crack this problem. An analogy here could be, you might have heard about a lot of locks made in our Dindigul districts. They make very beautiful locks, 3 lever, 5 lever, 7 lever, like that. The more and more the levers, it is very, very difficult to break. So Dindigul locks are very famous for that. But the mechanism to break the lock only using the same key by trial and error to find the key and then unlock it, it will be very difficult because they are making it harder and harder. But completely a different physical principle. Suppose a person comes with a laser gun. This mechanical lock making person is not aware of any laser technology or something. So he thought his locks are very safe. A person with a mastered laser technology comes with a laser gun. Just he cuts open the lock without any sound or anything and very easily open that and comes out. So the way it is made hard in a mechanical way, it is still hard, but it is completely broken by completely different principle. That is how it is broken. So similarly in our RSA encryption algorithm also, mathematically it is such a hard problem. And if you want to really find a factor and break this algorithm, it is still hard. But what Peter Shor, one of the physicists in US, found is there is another way to crack this problem, and that way is also only through quantum computing. That is how he has identified this. So it is equivalent to laser gun principle, completely different principle to crack the log, cut the log. And Peter Shor's algorithm using quantum computer is such a simple principle, such a simple way to break the encryption key. But the safer side for us is the theory aspect, the algorithm aspects are really fact, it will work. Only the hardware, the quantum computer, the size of the quantum computer that is needed is such a huge, it is still a decade or two away from us. So we are safe at least for another 10 years or 20 years. But nevertheless, I project this algorithm and the efficiency of the algorithm. Not only that, now the entire world is working on a lot of quantum computing algorithm, and they are making the algorithm ready. So as soon as the quantum computer is ready, they will use this algorithm and solve many of the problems. So algorithm development can go on with understanding of the quantum principles and quantum computing working. The hardware of the quantum computer per se, it will take a lot of time. Right now, D-Wave, Google, and few companies have come out. IBM, they have come out with small supercomputer, small quantum computers. There are only few tens of digits computers, bits computers. The kind of computer that is needed for cracking RSA encryption algorithm is quite a huge number, maybe 1,000-bit quantum computer or something more than that. So it is still a decade or two away. But anyway, as I said, so far I have given the problem. Maybe I have explained it also in the hard way. The problem itself is hard. It's very difficult to crack. That is what I conveyed. But how quantum computer is, and they estimate with that such a wonderful quantum computer, this problem, which takes nearly hundreds of years for a digital computer to crack, it will take only few minutes. That is the estimation. Then now you will appreciate the power of quantum computing, and such a powerful quantum computing can be used for your theme of this meeting machine language and machine learning also. Okay, now we'll come to this Shor's algorithm. Now, if you go to that same equation, a raised to the, instead of prime number minus 1, that period we have taken as a totient, because for prime number also totient is prime number minus 1. For composite number, the totient is found by LCM of the two prime numbers and other, whatever I explained. So generally, we will take a power that totient for phi of n is a totient, leaves the remainder 1 when it is divided by this composite big number n. Okay. Now that phi of n we will call as r. That is a period. Why we call period is after that it becomes, the remainder becomes 1. Once again, one more period if it goes, that is a power 2, or if it goes also, it's once again remainder 1. That's what we say, saw that first table, no? 3, 4, 2, 1, 3, 4. A power 4 also leaves remainder 1. A power 2 times 4, that is a power 8 also leaves remainder 1. A power 3 times 4, that is a power 12 also will leave the remainder 1. So that is the period. So a power r, it leaves the remainder 1 when it is divided by mod by n. That is the second line of my this slide. Third line, if you see carefully, see it is not equal, it is, and it is not congruent 3 bars, it is equal, normal equal. The second line, what it means, when a power r is divided by mod n, that is when it is divided by n, it leaves the remainder 1. That is, it is 1 more than the divisible of a number which can be divided by n. So if you take that away, a power r minus 1, then it is it can be divided by n. So multiple of n, k times n will be equal to a power r minus 1. I think the third, from second to third, if you have followed, then only the rest of things you can appreciate. Once again, I will repeat the second line. I have said a power r, when it is divided by n, it leaves the remainder 1. The 3 bar, what is called congruence in mathematics notation. So a power r, any number when it is divided by n, it leaves the remainder 1. That any number is a power r here, or we call as a period. That means it is 1 more than a number which can be divided by n. So now we will take away that 1, a power r minus 1. Then it is a multiple of n, k times n we will put. Now if you carefully see, from third line to fourth line, just an algebraic trick we have done. If you see a minus, this a power r minus 1 is some number, this can be written as a power r by 2 square minus 1. This 1 is 1 squared also, you can say, equal to k into minus k into 1. This is a I mean known, or a kind of a known algebraic equation. If you see carefully, you will get the semblance of it. It is a square minus b square. Here a power r by 2, if you take as a x, or x square minus y square, we will say a power r by 2 itself as a x, then x square minus 1. 1 is, it can be said as 1 square also, x square minus 1 square. So a square minus b square means, you know the algebraic factors for that. A square minus b square equal to a plus b into a minus b. So that next line I have put a power r by 2, that is x plus 1 into x minus 1. So these are the two factors for this first a power r by 2 to the square minus 1 equal to k power n. So now what we have found is very, very simple two algebraic equation, which is a factor a plus b into a minus b. And the one more thing about that is the two factors can be easily identified with the greatest common divisor of first factor and n. I will give you a result p, and GCD of second factor, that is a power r by 2 minus 1, and n, if you take the greatest common divisor of these two, it will leave remainder q. This so far is only mathematics. So Peter Shor has not done anything with this. This is normal mathematics. Just to appreciate how it works, we will take an example, whatever we have listed. That p and q, the two prime numbers shall be 3 and 5. So or we said no, that is a totient. That is, totient means LCM of the first prime number minus 1, second prime number minus 1. Here 3 minus 1 is 2 and 5 minus 1 is 4. If you take that, the LCM of 2 and 4, the r is 4. So, and if we want r by 2, just for that mathematic tricks, algebraic trick, r by 2, r by 2, that is 4 by 2 equal to 2. So the two factors are x plus 1 into x minus 1 is a power r by 2 plus 1 and a power r by 2 minus 1. This is k times n. In our case, suppose we take 7. We'll guess some 7 as a some period or something. We will guess how we will some number we will take, and this is actually in quantum computing also they will take a number. Few guesses they will make, with that only they will arrive at the equation. Now we have, since we know the result, I have put a proper guess here. 7 power 2 plus 1 into 7 power 2 minus 1 equal to k times 15. So 7 power 2 is 49. 49 plus 150, 50 into 48, that is equal to, the big number is multiple of 15, 160 times 15. So if you take the greatest common divisor of the first factor 50 and 15, you get 5, and greatest common divisor of second factor 48 and the number 15, if you take, it gets 3. So you get 5 and 3, the original p and q. Once you know the prime numbers, you have cracked the RSA encryption, because if both prime numbers are known, you know then how to find out the encryption and decryption key. That is a very simple mathematics only. So here if you see what mathematical theory already existing, Shor used it, simple algebraic. He made this modular exponentiation into a squared minus b squared problem, and made a two factor a plus b into a minus b. then you make some guess about the first number to be raised. And there are some ways to, actually it takes only few iterations to get the right guess to arrive at this. In that way, quantum computer takes few iterations, but once that guess is right, it takes only one cycle to complete the process. So with that guess, with these multiples and greatest common divisor of this factor and the 15, the number, you will get actually the P and Q, the prime numbers P and Q. So the problem here is to find out the period. The rest of things are max. All the other things, whatever I have said about GCD, multiply A squared minus B squared equal to A plus B, all these things are max. But what is R? In this problem, we know R because we know P and Q. But now we have to find the P and Q. P and Q is not known. Only R we have to find out. So once you know the R, then it becomes very easy. So what Peter Shor has identified, instead of finding a factor for a big number, that to have two prime factors, which takes hundreds of years, he thought finding a period is sufficient. That will immediately fetch me the P and Q, the two factors, through this algebraic mathematics. So once he identified this, there is a possibility in mathematics. Once you find a period, then the entire RSA encryption will become very easy to decrypt, crack. But period finding, then how it is easy? Period finding for such a big number, whatever we estimate 100 bits of 100 digits of prime numbers, multiples of those two prime numbers, this is still a very, very big problem. That also cannot be solved by digital computers in hundreds of years. But the intelligent idea of Shor is, in quantum computer, period finding is like a cakewalk. Quantum computers work on superposition. Quantum computers work on wave theory. In wave theory, wherever there are waves and everything, this frequency, period, everything becomes very easy to identify. But how to map this problem into that? That is the trick what Peter Shor identified with his quantum algorithm. So now, before going to quantum computer, I will give an analogy. In our technology, there are many places where we will have a problem, but which cannot be solved easily in that domain. But we can take up the same equivalent problem in another domain, which can be solved very easily, then fit the results to here. For example, these two equations, maybe you will be familiar, or I'll introduce also. The first equation is a mechanical force equation. Force equal to md squared x by dt squared, that is mass times acceleration, where x is normally displacement or distance, whatever you call. So that is the one equation. First, that is Newton's law of motion equation. Second, if you take it, some force depends on the velocity, like friction, drag, everything. So s times dx by dt, and some force depend on the distance also, like spring. How much it is elongated, that much force it will have. So force itself has three components: mass times acceleration, or velocity times some constant, in like a force like friction and drags and other things, which depend on velocity. A car, when it moves faster and faster in the wind, it will develop more friction than when it goes very slow. So it depends on velocity. Similarly, something depends on the length. The spring, when it is pulled, so long as it is within the Hooke's law limit, the more it pulls, the more force it has. So that is a kind of force equation. Similar equation in electrical circuit, you were in the EE department. You know this equation, very famous equation. Voltage in terms of inductor, resistor, and capacitor. In terms of inductor, if you say it is a second order difference of charge with respect to time, d squared q by dt squared into inductor L. In terms of resistance, if you say R into I, Ohm's law, that is I is dq by dt. And capacitor, if you say q by c, charge stored, that gives the voltage. So if you see, the first problem is a mechanical problem, second problem is the electrical problem. Most of the automakers, when they want to design their cars or big vehicle, it is very, very costly to make multiple prototypes and arrive at this damping constant, this drag force, how friction will be acting on the windshield when it is descend this way, that way, like that. It's very difficult. It's a very, very costly problem. So what they do is, they just map that problem into electrical circuits. They just work it on electrical circuit. That also with so much of simulation software theory, they may not even go for actual electrical items. So they will simulate, and only they have to fit. The equations are identical. So the problem in one domain, which is very easily solvable, can be solved, and the results, the coefficients can be extracted, and it can be easily mapped to the problem in another domain. So that will be very easy. It's a cost effective, time effective, like that. So quantum computer also similar thing only. Before introducing quantum computer, I say that quantum computers works on the basic principle of wave equation, superposition, where frequency, period, everything is its own basic attributes. Now for RSA encryption to crack, Shor found that if I find a period, then immediately I can find the factors. So he knows finding a period will help to solve crack the RSA encryption. And in quantum computer provide period finding. Only thing he has to wed these two. How we have period finding in quantum computer can be mapped to RSA encryption. This is what he has to do. That is what he has actually found in the quantum computing algorithm. So like mechanical and electrical circuit equivalence, he has found equivalence in two different concepts, and one result he can easily map into that. This is what the grand idea. Now, as a physicist, I'll be very interested to tell a lot of quantum physics, starting from the Schrodinger equation onwards, but it will be very difficult. It cannot be digested. I will give some few analogies to understand what are the basic quantum properties which are exploited in quantum computer. If we say from classical physics to quantum physics, the main difference or the main attributes of quantum physics are three things. One is superposition, another is entanglement, and another one more thing is the tunneling, which I have not introduced yet because for our sake, only these two are sufficient. So what is superposition? What is entanglement? These two I will try to, without any maths, I will try to explain with analogies. Superposition is a state. Normally, suppose a quantum particle like electron. Electron is now revolving around a nucleus. But to know the exact location of the electron, no one can say. The Schrodinger wave equation itself tells the probability of finding an electron in the ambit of the nucleus. So there is a big equation, there is a Schrodinger wave equation, second order differential equation and all. We will not go into that. What it conveys is ultimately electron is everywhere in that vicinity, not in a particular place, but once you measure, you will find out a particular place where it is identified. So long as it is not measured, it is everywhere. That is, its position is everywhere. So the superposition here means electron is everywhere. Everywhere means within that ambit. Suppose there is a nucleus and there is an electron cloud around that. So in that area, where particular time where the electron will be there, it is very difficult to estimate. Once you measure or locate it at a particular point, then it freezes to that point, because electron only one. Suppose hydrogen atom, if you take, there is only one electron. So only one electron is there. You have measured and frozen that point, then it is there. In the every other places, it is not there. It becomes point at a measured point only it is available. Rest of the point it is not there. But till then, till the measurement is made, the only best guess or the best equation what people can say is it is everywhere around it, hydrogen atom. So that is called superposition in quantum physics, and this is being used in quantum computer. I will just give an example of what it means. Suppose you take a 3-bit computer. So 3-bit digital computer means it's a binary computer. Each bit can have a value of 0 or 1. So 2 power 3 possibilities are there. But digital computer at any point of time can have one of the 2 power 3 possibilities, one of the 8 combinations only. Either 000 or 001 or 010 or 011, like that it goes on up to 111. So the probabilities are 8, but at any point of time, it is only one of the 8 values. But in quantum computer, these 3 bits with all the 8 values simultaneously can be there. It's weird, no? It's very difficult to first understand. If you are listening for the first time about the superposition in quantum computer, you cannot digest this idea. I will repeat again, whether you appreciate or not, we will explain it later. A 3-bit digital computer in a binary state computer can have 8 possible values, but at any point of time, it can have only one value. But in quantum computer, the computer with 3 bits simultaneously has all the 8 values. It has the value 0, 0 onwards to 1, 1, 1, 0 to 7, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All the values simultaneously it has. That is the what you call the very, very difficult idea to digest initially, but that is how the quantum computer works. We will explain basic principle behind this in physics form. I'll just give an analogy. And then, but this idea, you take it, whether you digest immediately or not, maybe you read again and again with many physics books, then you will appreciate. But for mathematics to work, to develop algorithm, you need not bother about how it really works, how quantum states are in superposition with all the 8 combinations simultaneously. You assume it works, then onwards you can work out the quantum algorithm for your problem solving. But it is very difficult to assume initially, especially it is like a blind faith. How you cannot, because you cannot visualize how it can be in all the 8 combinations simultaneously. It's very difficult. But you assume that it is true, and then you can proceed for engineering problems. But as a physicist, if you really want to understand how it behaves, there are many very good articles, and it can be a full-time 1 or 2 hours lecture where it can be explained. I will give an analogy anyway to appreciate that how it can be there. You might have seen such photographs. A fast moving car or a very fast flying object, when it is taken with a very slow shutter speed, then it will have images at every places. Okay, the trick is that actually you have shot with a very slow shutter speed. So by the time the shutter is opened and closed, the car has moved a lot of position, but all the position from where it was there during that period, the light reached the camera film and it has actually etched all the places. That is why after you develop the film, you will see that car is from here to there, everywhere it was there. Or this photograph, you take a dancer performing very fast, and if it is shot with a very, very slow camera, then her previous position, everything also will be available in the picture. So you will assume she is everywhere. Okay. Actually, at any point of time, if you had shot with a very fast shutter speed, you would have frozen her position at a particular point. Otherwise, you would assume she was everywhere. So this is only to drive an idea that when an electron moves at near light speed around a hydrogen atom, if you say it is 1 angstrom 10⁻⁻10 meter size. Around that, if an electron moves with the speed of light, you just imagine it is so fast. What you will say? Every time you will say electron is everywhere. That is what the superposition actually, the physical meaning of superposition, because our inability, it is not just our inability, physically it is intrinsically, it is difficult, it is not possible to locate a particular electron at a particular point without measuring it. You cannot say at this point of time, this electron will be here, at this point of time, this will be here, this, like in Newton laws of motion, where you can find the position of the car a priori. If you know the car is going to start from this position X, and in a straight road, it is going to move with a velocity 40 km/h. In after 1 hour, it will be here. You can very particularly dictate and find the result. But in quantum particles with that speed and with that dimension of length and area and volume, you will say that the electron is everywhere. That everywhere at the same point of time is called superposition. This is being used. So when I say this electron is everywhere at the same time, you just map this to all the 8 possible combination of the 3 bits is simultaneously available in the quantum computer. Then you will appreciate that quantum computer at one stroke. Suppose you want to suppose you are given a number 7, you want to find whether it is a 0 to 7, one of the number is given, you want to find which number it is. Then you will write one algorithm, whether it is 0 or it is 1 or 7 times if you run, you will find, 8 times if you run, you will find out which number is given. It is sufficient. But quantum, with one stroke, it will tell which number it is. That is the power of the quantum computer. So it is a hard hard thing to understand initially if you are hearing this for the first time, that simultaneously quantum bits have all the values simultaneously. That is very, very difficult. But from this analogy, you can understand. And then I will explain how it is actually manifested in quantum computer also. Like our digital computer, what we call as bit, binary digit bit, which has two states, 0 and 1. In quantum computer, we say qubit, and with superposition, as I said. So suppose any one of the quantum properties is used for coding these bits. For example, electron spin. Electrons has an intrinsic property called spin. It can be either up or down. Suppose if you say spin up as 0 state and spin down as 1 state, so it is a 2 binary state. But electron spin can be in any direction. The electron spin actually is really in any direction, but when you want to measure it, it aligns with that direction. So either it is aligned with your measurement direction or it is anti-aligned with the measurement. That is opposite to your direction of the measurement. To give an analogy, if iron filings are just spread on a table, and if you bring a magnet, then automatically they align. You might have seen that is a one thing which humans can easily feel action at distance, even without touching. If you bring the magnetic field, then all the these iron filings will align. So they may be at random directions. Once it is in the magnetic field, so small iron filings, if you take small cylinder or small vertical lengthy, small thin and lengthy like iron pieces, they may be randomly oriented. But once the magnetic field comes, because of the north and south pole, it is generated in the iron. Because iron filing itself is magnetized in the presence of magnetic field, then it forms either aligned with a line. In magnetism also, there is an anti-aligning thing called antiferromagnetism. If you have heard about this, some they align opposite to the magnetic field. So they are called anti. That is also basically intrinsically from the electron spin only. Either spin can be aligned with the magnetic field, which is called a positive or a +1 state. Anti-aligned, it can be a 0 state or a opposite negative state, whatever you call. Now, so any other direction, instead of up and down direction, if you have a spin in any other direction, it is a superposition state. But the superposition state is there, as I said, like electrons is in superposition of all places around the hydrogen nucleus. So till you measure it. Once you measure it and you identify the location, then it gets frozen to that position. The rest of the places, electron is not there. Similarly, electron, with its free will, it will be spinning in any direction, any random direction. Like a spherical ball, if you take all the solid 360-degree, anywhere it can be randomly oriented. But once you bring a measurement, a magnetic field to measure the spin, automatically it is either aligning with the field or anti-aligning with the field. So long as it is not measured, it is a superposition. So in all our quantum computer also, when we say quantum superposition states of all the bits, they are all superposition states so long as it is measured. Once you measure it, they froze to one particular state. They collapse it. That is what they call as a collapse of superposition. Okay. So in quantum computer also, that is one of the problem. You have to preserve the superposition state without affecting by the environmental conditions. That is why all the quantum computers which are being built now in IBM or Google, they are all at very near zero, absolute zero level. They are going. In that only the spins are maintained properly. And any external temperature or other vibration, if they come and interfere, they will destroy the superposition. That what they call is decoherence. So it will affect the quantum computing state. It is like corrupting the data in our digital parlance. So that is why the quantum computer hardware per se is very difficult. Extraordinary cool temperature without any other disturbance, no EMI/EMC noise, all other conditions need to be met. That is a different problem altogether. So I have explained about the qubit and superposition. And one more thing, as I said, the superposition is there so long as it is not measured. Once you measure, it collapses. So if you have now in this sphere, if spin up is 0 and spin down is 1, in that sphere, if you see, there is a horizontal direction, 0 and 1 together. So this direction will not be there once you bring a magnetic field in either up or down direction to measure what is the state of the electron spin here. Automatically in that horizontal direction will either align towards one bit as a bit 1 collapses as a bit 1 or collapses as a 0 based on its. That is also probability mechanism. With more number of times, if you see, the end result will come. What is the probability you will get it. This is superposition. Another aspect of quantum computing is entanglement. This is the weirdest problem in quantum computers. Even the world-known physicists, even the Nobel laureates, though it works, they don't really understand why it works. It is such a mind-boggling, difficult to understand, but it works. So Einstein himself called this as a spooky action at a distance. He called with kind of sarcasm to counter quantum mechanics, but ultimately it turned out to be true. It is really a spooky action at a distance because there is no understanding about that. We cannot explain with any known theory how it works, but it works. So what is that? You know, you might have heard about this pair production term, that is a photon, a gamma ray. A gamma ray is electromagnetic radiation. Okay, it is not now we call wave and particle as a dual nature and all. So a gamma ray comes, it interacts with matter. These gamma rays and all, photons and all, they don't have any spin. There are spin zero particles. Even though they call it, when we term is a particle like a photon, they are all spin zero particles. They don't have any spin. But in certain conditions, now after Einstein's E equal to mc squared, energy can become a matter, matter can become energy. So this is a gamma is a big energy. When in a particular conducive interaction with the matter, the gamma collapses. That is actually the photon, the electromagnetic collapses and forms two particles, one electron and one positron. Positron is nothing but an electron in all its other properties except the charge. Charge is reversed. That is plus charge equivalent to electron charge. Otherwise, mass, spin, and other attributes of that electron will be there. Now, this is a one pair protection happens in physics phenomena. That is a gamma. Gamma is a photon which has a zero spin. Under conditions when it interacts with matter, it collapses. That the energy collapses and creates two particles, one electron and one positron. Okay, but there are some laws of conservation. You would have heard about laws of conservation of energy and other things from our high school classes. Here we have some laws of conservation which should be respected. One is the charge conservation. So one electron, if it is produced, there is photon gamma is a neutral. There is no charge for the electromagnetic radiation. It is not a photon with any positive charge or a negative charge. It is a neutral charge. No charge it is there. So when it is making or creating two particles, one is an electron which is a negative, then the other should be a positive charge. Then only that the charge conservation law is preserved. So one negative and one positive. Initially it was zero, now it has become one negative and one positive. Similarly, the spin also should be, initially gamma's spin was zero, now electron has a spin, either spin up or spin down. So if electron and positron are created, they both of them have spin. So one should be up and another should be down. Then only they compensate each other so that the beginning of the process, before its creation, the spin was zero. Now after creation also, the sum of these two spins, it should become equal to zero. One is minus or minus of or plus of, whatever you say, complementary to each other, it becomes conservation of spin is also preserved. Okay. Now assume that I will give another analogy. Suppose a person is packing a pair of shoes in two different boxes, right shoe and left shoe in two different boxes, and they sends it to two different places. And it is a priori known that it is a pair of shoes. So suppose one shoe is shipped to America and another shoe is to Australia, is exactly opposite end of the universe, or maybe Japan, you say, whatever is 12 hours difference between them. And if one of the boxes is opened at one of the places, even before getting any information from the other side, you can say what is the shoe in that other box. Suppose the American fellow has opened the box and finds that it is a left leg shoe. Immediately, without any information from the other side of the universe, he will tell that the person who received in Japan would have had only a right leg shoe. Because a priori it is known it is a pair of shoes. So once one is known, other is already fixed. It is at the creation time itself, it is fixed. So what Einstein argued is, it is like a pair production, conservation of laws should be respected. So any two electrons, when they are created, one is with the positive spin down, spin up, then other should be always spin down. So one is known, other is always known. But initially people thought this spin, till it is measured, it can be randomly at any direction. Okay, only they are complementary, because to obey the conservation of spin law, they should be complementary. If one is spin up, another is spin down. That is right. But these two, till they are measured, as I said, as we discussed in the original quantum physics principle, that till they are measured, they are randomly at any direction. They are superposition of all states. The spin could be either 0 onwards to 360 direction, anywhere it could be there. So one electron which goes this side, if it is any direction 0 to 360, another is only complementary, but another is also equally having all possibilities. So initially the spooky action at a distance criticism came. They said that two electrons are randomly in any direction, but once the one electron is measured, the other electrons automatically freezes to its complementary state. Till it is measured, both are in two superpositions. Both can be in all states together, but once it is measured, the other state is also fixed. So the measurement at one place influences the state of the other electron. Even these two electrons, after a pair production, if they are separated to a large distance, they have actually done. They have separated two pair produced electrons to different places, which distance is more than 1 light second, and measured here before because even if you want to communicate, or even without your knowledge, any communication goes from here to that intrinsically, because ultimately Einstein said the speed of the light is the ultimate speed. So with light speed, even then, before that itself, that the other electrons state is frozen. So even before any communication could really happen, the time to communicate such a distance, even with the light speed, before that itself, the other state is frozen once it is measured. So something measured at one of the electrons influences the other electron state. This is called spooky action at a distance. Later they said no, it is not spooky action. One is there are pair produced, so one is already produced in one state. We do not know the state till we measure. The other is complementary to that. So there was one famous physicist, Dr. Bell. He found with normal our set theory Venn diagram. I mean, it is only for interest. If you want, you can go through the literature. It is very interesting problem. If you are interested, you can read that. With some combinations he has worked out, if it is a quantum mechanical property that is really a spooky action distance without our understanding, both are at superposition state, but once it's measured, other automatically fixes this probability. If he takes, what will be the probability to get that? Or like pair production and conservation laws, if it is a priori, you know, but you have not measured, but a priori they are fixed. This match is fixed already. If he bowls, he will hit a 6 like that, it is fixed. But only we do not know if that probability, if you take and fit through that Bell's inequality, it will wind up with a probability. Then many experiments were carried out. It really turned out to be, as of now, the physics world's understanding is it is really spooky action at a distance. So why we use this entanglement in quantum computer? There are some cases where a set of bits and another set of bits, they are all entangled, so that one portion of the algorithm, when it goes, the result portion, whatever, they are all fixed. So one only if you manipulate this, the rest of the things is automatically fixed. Such a thing is needed for our RSA encryption and algorithms breaking with quantum computers. So that is why I have taken slightly harder time for the entanglement. But these two, quantum mechanics, superposition, and entanglement, tunneling, with real physics point of view, you can read, you can consult any good physicist also. It is very, very interesting problem. Though you are all engineers, try to understand these two. It is a very powerful, what you say, appetite for your brain. There are very good understand. This is human brain's maximum capacity, and all. You will appreciate how they have identified this problem and solved these things. Okay, now we will come to this. So I have taken very less reasonable time to introduce quantum physics without any equation. These two concepts, superposition and entanglements, which are being used for our source algorithm to break the RSA encryption. Cho's algorithm, as I said, has three components. One is modular arithmetic that we explained already, that a power totient leaves the remainder 1 divided by modular. Then he made it as a algebraic equation of a squared minus b squared equal to sometimes n. Then a plus b and a minus 1 he formed as a factor. Then from there, greatest common denominator, taking that and n, he finds p and q. So that is a modular arithmetic portion. That is simple mathematics. But period finding, as I said, is a very common, difficult problem. There he has used the quantum computing and quantum parallelism and all. So, and one more thing, where what we call quantum Fourier transform. You would have heard about Fourier transform or fast Fourier transform and all. This is equivalent to the same only. It is not quantum, means it is not very difficult. It is equal to the same only. There also, I will only one equation I will show to appreciate that. Otherwise, I have not shown listed any other mathematical equation. Okay, once again we will visit the same. This is what I showed in the previous slide. That is mathematical portion, mathematical model arithmetic portion phase of the Cho's algorithm is only to find the factors using this mathematical trick of algebraic trick. A squared minus b squared equal to a plus b into a minus b. Only that a, which has period as a power, that if it is known, then it is only a small mathematical problem. And now to find a period finding, we are using a quantum computers. I explained about superposition in physics sense with atoms and examples and all. But mathematically, or computer wise, to understand that how it is really done, I have taken some other analogy, or I have drawn some more picture just to understand how it will be there. Now, single qubit, if you take it as a two state, okay, but each state you can assume it has one dimension to the one dimension. Suppose let two dimensions shall be shown as two different circles. Now we will take bit 0 and bit 1, and since two bits are there, we will have two dimension. That is a circle. You assume that circle within the circle there is an arrow. This is like a spin direction of the electron or something like that you can assume. For a 0 state, you assume that spin direction of electron in both dimension. That this circle can be in the solid sphere. The circle can be one of the planar cut. You can have a multiple planar circle, no, in a solid sphere. So this is one of the planar cut. That is one dimension. In that dimension also it is pointing up. The second dimension also it is pointing up for a 0 bit. For a bit 1, assume that it is pointing up in dimension 1 and pointing down in dimension 2. The superposition of 0 and 1 will result in the first dimension, it will be pointing up, because in both bit 0 and bit 1, that direction of the arrow is up. So the resultant direction in that dimension for superposition of 0 and 1 will be up. But for dimension 2, the superposition of direction in 0th bit and 1th bit are opposite, so they cancel and you will get 0. So if you see 0 is coded as sphere, circle 1 with upward direction, both the circles with upward direction, and 1 is coded with both the circles with mutually opposite direction. The resultant of superposition of 0 and 1 will be coded as first dimension it will be up, second dimension it will be 0. We'll take a two-state system, slightly complicated. So 4 states are there. We will have a 4 dimension, 4 spheres we will assume. For 0, all are in the vertical up direction. In the first, for a bit digit or number 1 to be coded, we will assume in the dimension, first dimension, it is pointing up like 0. In the second dimension, it has made a quarter revolution. And third dimension, another quarter, that is half of the revolution. Fourth dimension, 3/4. Okay. For number 2 to be coded, the first dimension, it is still up. That is the first row if you take. The vertical arrow is pointing vertically up. In the second dimension, now in the for a digit 1, it is only quarter rotation. For digit 2, it is a 2/4 or a half rotation. So for second dimension, it goes down. And third dimension, another half. So once again, it comes up. So you will see that pattern. For digit 3, if you see up in the first dimension, in the second dimension, 3/4 rotation. So it is showing a 9 o'clock. Then once again 3/4 rotation for the third dimension. So once again it comes to 6 o'clock, and another 3/4 rotation it comes to 3 o'clock. So this is how it is now. This is only for visualization. I have given this 8. The mathematics actually is the last line I have written. If you see where AK equal to I have written, that alone, if you see, it is not very difficult. You can just follow. I will explain. E power 2 pi I, that is like a exponential, is a circular 2 pi. So every 2 pi is a 360 degree direction. It will make a circle. Once again, it will come. I is our imaginary number. Okay, 2 pi I is a mathematical notation. E power 2 pi I means you can assume that it has made one circle. Now J, K divided by N. Okay, N is the number of bits. That is here. It is a number of state. That is a 4 state. Okay, 2 bits means we can have a 4 state. So 4. And the K is the number to be coded. Suppose if it is a 1, then 1. So okay, 1 by the K by N is 1 by 4. So for a number 1 to be coded, and J, if you see the sigma J runs from 0 to N minus 1, 0 to 3 it is running. So J, if you put, just carefully see, it is not very difficult. E power 2 pi, you say it is only for a circular, again and again it will be circling only that portion. You only consider J times K times N, K by N. That also you take K by N as one value. K by N is like, if it is a number 1, it is 1 by N is 4, so 1 by 4. So every time it will make 1 by 4 of a rotation. For a number 1, if you see, J runs from 0 to 3. So 0 times 1 by 4 of rotation, that is 0 rotation. So vertically up only in the first dimension. And the second dimension, it is pointing 3 o'clock. If you see, K by N is still 1 by 4. J is now 1. So 1 times 1 by 4. So quarter times it has run. That is why it is showing 3 o'clock. Then next J becomes 2. 2 times quarter, that is off. 3 times quarter, that is 9 o'clock. So similarly, instead of K equal to 1, if you K equal to 2, that is for number 2, that is third column, number 2 if you see. So 2 by 4, K by N is 2 by 4, that is half. Okay, for J 0, first dimension, first vertical, first horizontal row for column 3, 2, if you say it is vertical up, 0 times half, that is, it is not rotated, it is showing up. Then J becomes 1, 1 times half, so it is rotated to half times. So then 2 times half, that is 1 full rotation. So for the digit 3, third row, if you take it, once again it comes to vertical up. So actually this figure I have only given you to have a feel for it. This is the actual equation, 2 pi I j k by n. So that will give this. Now if you take a superposition of 0 and 2, you will see it is a constructive interference in case of the first circle, then destructive in the second, once again constructive in the first, and destructive in the last. So this is how a quantum state of, maybe it is a spin or it's a polarization of light, because quantum computers use different aspects of the quantum physics for having storing these bits. If it is electron spin, it is oriented at different places. Then superposition of that spins gives meaning, whether it is a combination of 0 and 1 or 0 and 2 or 0 and 3, like that it goes on. So, and this is the mathematical equation you can appreciate. I have avoided other mathematical equations. This is only I have put so that this is the actual max, and this is only analogy by which you can understand that. So now we will take this example, our original example of 7 and model 15. If we say it goes like this: 7 when it is raised to the power 0, it leaves the remainder 1 when it is divided by 15. 7 raised to the power 1, it leaves the remainder 7. Like that it goes on. So you will get 1743, 1743, 1743, or 413, like that. So yeah, it's a very simple. You will find out this is the period is 4, because after every 4 rows, once again it repeats. But now you are number 7 you are raising. See your original problem, if you see here, we assume that number is 7, and we are raising to a particular 2. We do not know here what it is the period. This R is 4, but In quantum, before knowing P and Q, we will not be knowing the R. Only thing we have to know the R. Okay, we are raising only 7. So what we are doing is 7, we are raising to different numbers. When you take a mod of 15, it will result will be coming like this. But in quantum computer, what we are doing is this 7 is raised to 0. In digital computer, you can raise 7 to 0 and divide by 15. That is one step you will be doing. Then 7 you will raise to 1 and divide by 15 and get the remainder. Second step you will be doing. So like that, if these 10 steps are there, 10 times you will be doing. In quantum computer, as I said earlier, though difficult for you to grasp or appreciate this immediately, believe it, 7 can be raised to 0, 7 can be raised to 1, 7 can be raised to 2, 7 can be raised to 3, 7 can be raised to 4, up to 7 can be raised to 10 or any number simultaneously. At one stroke itself, 7 can be raised to multiple numbers. How it is done? Like this superposition of whatever said. This you can say is 7 raised to 0 is one state. Instead of 0, 1, 2, 3, you assume that 7 raised to 0 is coded like this, 7 raised to 1 is coded like this, 7 raised to 2 is coded like this, 7 raised to 3 is coded like this, like that, up to n number of times. And superposition of all this will result in some orientation of this spin. It will give a resultant oriented of all this. Some cases it will be constructive interference, some cases it will be destructive interference, some cases it will be a cross. That is 90-degree two vectors are there. It will be when they are superposition, it will be a 45-degree angle. All this together, you will get an ultimate one state, which is representing all the states together simultaneously. This is what you have to appreciate. In digital computer, you have to do one by one. 7 you raise to 0, divide by 15, get a result. 7 raised to 1, divide by 15, and get a result. Then if this mode, if you run the algorithm to find the factor or find the period in this case also, it will take hundreds of years. But quantum computer raises 7 to all the different numbers. Even 7 raised, if it is a 500-bit number, some 500-bit quantum computer, you can raise 7 to the 0 to 499 simultaneously. The superposition of 7 raised to 0, 7 raised to 1, 7 raised up to 499. Together, it will be available at one single stroke. And with that, if you run the quantum computing algorithm, you will get the result. That is the speed at which it works. To give an analogy again, because it's very difficult to appreciate, though, see, the quantum physics is one aspect. People say that quantum physics is very difficult to understand. Actually, if you read, it is easy to understand, but it is not easy to appreciate. You cannot believe it. You can understand it, but still you cannot believe it. That is the actual problem of the quantum physics, rather than not understanding. You will understand, but you cannot believe. That is the problem of the quantum computer, quantum physics as per se. Now I will give an analogy, how the superposition simultaneously will work. As an electronics engineer, you might have heard about the low-pass filter. Suppose I have given a black box. I say it is a filter, but just to find the cutoff frequency of the filter. What you will do? You can send 1 Hz sine wave, 2 Hz sine wave, 3 Hz sine wave. You can go on send till where it cuts. Then you will find out, okay, n Hz is cut. Till then it is passing. So it's some 500 Hz filter. Something like 500 times you have to run, then find out that it is a 500 Hz filter. Up to 499 it was passing. Okay, that roll back and all is there. You assume it is a short filter like a digital filter. So up to 499 Hz it was passing. 500 Hz it is stopping. So you have to run 500 times to find out the filter cutoff frequency. But the another analogy, you know that a square wave is actually a superposition of all odd harmonics. So you get a square wave with all odd harmonics up to 500, and you send it through this filter. So up to 499, all harmonics will be allowed. Beyond that, only it will be cut. So if you send up to 1000, whatever. So in one stroke, you are sending a square wave which contains odd harmonics even beyond 500 Hz and sending through that filter. Then whatever you get after the filter, you just run a Fourier transform of that signal. You will find out what are the frequencies contained in it. You will send up to 1000 Hz, but only up to 500 Hz. Only odd numbers will become, or that is only give a result with a plus or minus 1 Hz accuracy, because only odd numbers we have sent in this case. Even it can be all even and odd combination also. I have taken example of square wave, so I said odd. So superposition has been working already in different domain with a different field, which we have understood, because we know the superposition of sine waves. when multiple sine waves interfere, how constructively they interfere and produce a superposition of waves, how distantly interfere and the superposition results in a negative result also, we can appreciate. In quantum computer, when it comes, it's a bit difficult to appreciate, but the understanding is the same. So this example, whatever I have said, so what is the input to register, what we are giving, that should be some mathematically they have identified, because for known problem when you solve, you will find out what is should be the length of the register for a given problem and all. So that is how they identified. For our problem of n equal to 15, because our mod we have taken for 15 or 3 and 5 being our p and q. So 15 is the n. So if you have a size of quantum computer with 225, more than 225 bits, it is sufficient. That is how 256 states it is sufficient. So even 8-bit is sufficient. And 8-bit register can have any value of 0 to 255 in classical computer. So this is what I said, explained to you. 7 to the power of all the combination of superposition is simultaneously done, and the mod is taken, and you get the result. And this is the circuit, something equivalent to that. I just drive the point. Don't try to understand. It's very difficult because I have not introduced all the quantum gate like our AND gate, NAND gate, OR gate. In quantum computing also there are many gates, Hadamard gate, like that. So many gates are there which is doing some particular functionality. Since I have not introduced those things, that is another altogether full-time lecture. So I have avoided that thing. So we are sending, suppose here if it is the first top diagram, that the X is the input. This H of Hadamard gate, it is a superposition of all states it is saying. That is 7 power 0 to all 7 power whatever number together, superposition all the states we are sending. Then you are taking the modular of n. There are also quantum algorithms in there. Then the result will come. So this side, this box where X and 1 is left side and X and a power X mod and the right side. No, after that box, the result comes. You will get the superposition of all the 7 power cases and the modular of taking after that taking the mod n that cases. That means all the 7 power, this table you can assume that I 7 power I and 7 power I mod n, these two are available at X and AX mod n, but in a superposition state. Now you do when you measure or when you take the inverse quantum Fourier transform is like that. You have got a superposition of state. From that, if you take inverse, you will find out the things which result in that particular state. For example, in our case, the remainder 1 comes at I equal to 0, I equal to 4, I equal to 8. Okay, like that it goes on. So 7 power 0, 7 power 1, 7 power 2, 7 power 3, 7 power 4, all are simultaneously available. But when you measure, as I said, quantum computer in superposition state is available so long as you are not measured. Once you measure, it freezes to one particular state. So when we measure, suppose we have measured and we have found 1 in the resultant, a power x mod n is 1. So this 1 in the right side, that is 7 power I mod 15, gives result 1. That is when you measure. Before measurement, it could be 1, 7, 4, that superposition of 1, 7, 4, because this is only 4 state. In this example, if you take 1, 7, 4, that only these 4 numbers are repeated again and again. So these 4 numbers only in superposition state. In the first column, it is a superposition of 7 power 0, 7 power 1, 7 power 2, like that. All the 7 power 0 to 10, 7 power, there is 11 combination of superposition state. Whereas here it is only 4 combination of superposition state. So this diagram, if you see that box X and AX mod n, that X gives 7 power all the 11 combination. In the example I have given 11 combination. Actually, it is whatever number is required. And this AX mod n, it is a superposition of only 4 numbers, 1, 4, 7, 30. And now at a particular time when you measure this 1, 4, 7, 13 superposition of these 4 combinations, only one of the combinations, one of the numbers will be available. Suppose you find 1, assume that you find 1. Then these two registers, that X and A power X mod n, are entangled. that I said, no, this one measurement one will prefix the state at which the other was there. So when I measure one with the AX mod n, the output of AX mod n, that is, it is in the really it is in the superposition of 1, 4, 7, 13. But when I make a measurement, it freezes to one of these 4 states. Assume that I got 1, then correspondingly, the other one is also now frozen because they are all entangled. Once this is measured, the other thing is also frozen to a particular state. That state could be, because I got 1 in 7 power I mod 15, that is in the second register I got 1, then the corresponding superposition in the first register only could be 0, 4, 8, 12, something, all these things. Because that superposition only will give a result of 1. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, these superposition of these numbers will not give. So now only 0, 4, 8. Such a superposition, when it is available at that point of time and when it is taken mod, that only gives a result 1. So when we make a measurement and finds 1 at AX mod n output, then automatically it freezes X as the superposition of 0, 4, 8, 12, like that. So now only with a limited superposition, if you take inverse QFT is another algorithm. I have not explained that. Suppose in this case, 0 and 2 together, you get some number. From this, you can find out what is the constituents to make this vertical direction only in the first and third circle. You will find out that it will result only 0 and 2. That's the inverse quantum Fourier transform. This superposition resultant gives, that is the forward direction. You get a superposition of things, then from there the constituents can be found. That is really our Fourier transform technique only, no? So with that, if you find out, then you will find the constituents are 0 and 2. So here also, the same way, when you find the inverse Fourier transform, you will get the results, and that will give the periodicity 0, 4, 8, like that it goes. So at what periodicity, again and again the one comes, you will know 0, 4, 8, 12. So the period is 4, the difference. So that's actually a slightly difficult algorithm is there. I have avoided that for the simplicity. So I have taken nearly 1.5 hours. My idea was to only give a flavor of the quantum computer's potential, and I have taken this hard example of cracking RSA algorithm to understand the power of the quantum computer. Only my idea is only to drive quantum computer's power. Actually, with this, you would not have grasped many things. I have not explained many of the physics aspects and the quantum mechanics, quantum computers, all the gates which will be used for quantum algorithm. But if it provokes interest or it invokes interest in the students to read quantum computer, which has a tremendous potential for machine learning, I'll be very pleased that you will read this. And if you have further interest in the basic physics idea, you can look through a lot of YouTube lectures and videos are there, which will give a tremendous human brain's ability to think such a level of complicated theories. You will appreciate it. I thank you all, particularly Principal HOD and Mr. Rahul, for inviting me to give this talk. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. It will be a wonderful, beautiful session with a lot of information you are sharing. So, and also new to me, all the research buddy and research professionals. Sure, this will be your lot of take-home message from this session, and also there will be a starting session for all kind of research community. Please clarify if you have any queries or any questions. Resource person is there, so you can ask me, or otherwise you can put in chat box. Rahul sir.
Sir, there are some questions in chat box, sir. Shall I read it out, sir?
Thank you, please.
Is this algorithm is like a parallel processing?
No, actually you cannot simulate parallel processing, digital computer parallel processing and achieve the same quantum mechanical result. That means you are having a parallel resources. If you run suppose if you have a computer with 2 microprocessor, which is really called a multi-processing, not multitasking, or multi-processing, you are running 2 simultaneous things. But assume that we have to run, as I said, 7 power 0 to 10, it's 11. Actually, for our size of the encryption, the numbers which we use, thousands and thousands of bits they are using, That means you have to run 1,000 times 1,000 or millions of computers parallelly. Even then, it takes a lot of time. And then entanglement, that is one result, how it influences the other, that and all very, very difficult to do it. So you cannot simulate quantum computing in a parallel mechanism. You can just give a feel out, just you can run a demo video to understand that, but you cannot really solve the problem with the parallel computing.
Okay, sir. We move to next question. Sir, people are asking about material to study about this topic. Also, it will be helpful for them to make further research activities. Also, they are asking some simulators to do some research, advanced research activity. And some
Yeah,
lectures
actually quantum computing, yeah, a quantum computer per se in India, we are very much lagging. Now only government has initiated a big amount of money is being sanctioned, and our department also party to that work. But IBM, for example, they run quantum computer. Actually, there is a web portal. You can search IBM Q Skit or something. You can run small algorithm. They will really execute in quantum computer, their own quantum computer, and will give you the result back. So that facility is available. And there are many languages for quantum computing algorithm also, like Quantum C, quantum computer language QCL, and then Quantum C, like that many languages are there. But to actually you need not know quantum physics per se to write any quantum computing algorithm and develop algorithm and make it available, because many people are starting, as I said, RSA encryption to use the Shor's algorithm and defeat our security process. Such a quantum computer, it may come to existence only after a decade or two. But already many countries, they have started logging capturing the encrypted data and storing in the file system. So once this algorithm with the quantum computer is available, they will decrypt all this, whatever they are storing now, and find out the transactions which are made across countries for strategic reasons and everything. So already the threat is there, though the quantum computer has not yet come to solve this, to crack this problem. People have started storing this data right now. When the quantum computer is ready after 10 years, they will decrypt that and find out what transaction went between countries and other things and all. So quantum algorithm development is going very fast. As I said, you need not know quantum physics, but don't skip it. You read it. Quantum physics, there are, everything is right now available in your web itself or YouTube. It's a very good video demonstration, everything. There are very good books also that name and author I don't remember right now, and I can mail you.
Okay, sir. Sir, another one question.
Yeah.
Give any other application for quantum computing?
Yeah, lot of actually this RSA encryption cracking is a very actually I should say it is abuse of quantum computer. Abuse means not in the ethical sense. I'm saying quantum computer potential is such a huge. What we used to find some only period and to crack RSA encryption is very small usage, very little usage. That is why trivial usage. That's why I said it is abuse. The potential is like this. Actually, drug manufacturing, the different combination of all the molecular arrangement and all the things, there are basically a quantum mechanical phenomena, quantum physics phenomena, because all the molecules and atoms, when they are interact and form a particular drug, they have to settle at a low energy state. These are all physically a quantum physics problem, and that can be simulated in a quantum physics computer. Exactly how the physics of the quantum physics will detect the molecular arrangement in a drug manufacturing, the same way quantum computer will simulate, the same process will execute and simulate. So there is a lot of potential for new material development, new drug development, and there are a lot of, even something like a search algorithm in an unsorted, suppose you have a 10 lakh entry in a telephone directory and you know only the number is not arranged in any sequential order, only alphabets, names are arranged in the alphabetical order. So given number to find out the name of the person, your normal algorithm, normal computer takes n entries are the nearly root of n steps or something. But in the quantum Grover algorithm, that is one algorithm, it takes only few steps. I don't remember to compare the time efficiency, but it runs very fast and it will find out. Like the unsorted arrangement can be searched very easily. There are many potential applications, especially I said, where n simultaneous equation, where n runs into thousands and millions, quantum computer will come. It is not just matrices problem, it is a simultaneous problem. Molecular arrangement, drug manufacturing, material development, even very, very difficult weather forecasting in case if it is a multi input system, all these things will be very, very easily done in quantum computing.
Sir, another one question, they are asking some suggestion. How we can guide the electrical student to enter into this field?
I really do not know how electrical people will directly fit unless you have, because the machine learning itself is kind of a computer science related thing. Maybe applications in the electrical domain, it will come.
Yes.
As I said, machine learning per se, when you go in and develop, you can only see that there is a tremendous potential in quantum computing. Actually, if you go to Wikipedia, quantum machine learning itself, one subject is there. You can read that. That is enhanced machine learning using quantum computing. So you will find a lot of literature in that also.
Okay, sir. Sir, when your department head introduced me, he said that you will explain everything crystal clear and a lucid manner. You proved the word. Actually, really thankful to him, to Engineer Venkateshan sir and Dr. Tirunanamurthy sir. Really happy having you. It's a new topic for us. Even it looked like some difficult thing, but you explained the thing in a very lucid manner. Also, it helped us to understand what is happening in a clear manner. Actually, really thankful to you having you. So it helps us to do further research activity. Also, it helps the participant to share the knowledge of this quantum physics and computing algorithms to the students, also to the research community. Sir. Really, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Those were very kind words. Actually, it is also a very difficult subject for me because I have not worked in that. I have only read, because one of my senior colleagues, he is working on, he will be in the quantum computer project of that India, whatever the government of India has projected. So from him only I picked up the interest, and this RS encryption security things, we are also working, because ours is a strategic environment. We are also working on a lot of security things. So I developed interest, but so far we have never had any hands-on work on that. It is only in the theory. So it's also a very hard problem for me to convey, and avoiding all the mathematics and physics. Anyway, thank you.
Hello, sir.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Participants are asking some doubts.
Hello, sir. Sir, actually,
Yes,
myself.
sir.
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Yes, sir. Myself, Gajendran from Karpom College of Engineering.
Yeah.
Actually, past 1.5 hours, we are sitting in front of the system, and we are thinking lots. Actually, by seeing the one example of that analogy, the pair of shoes like that in the slide, I read the slide. I am waiting for the explanation, but after your explanation, I really don't know what to tell, sir. So it's a real nice inputs for us.
Okay.
It's a new topic for us. We need to learn a lot from this. Thank you for your wonderful presentation, sir.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks a
you
lot.
very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gajendran sir, for your valuable feedback, because as a resource person like this, because he is an expert.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you for your valuable feedback, sir. We all credit goes to Shanmugam, sir.
Thank you very much.
Sir, also you can see the feedback in chat. They are giving many feedback regarding the session, that your session is more informative, also will be useful. Those things they are sharing in chat box. Really, thank you, sir. Thank you for being here, and you.
Yeah, thank you, and Mr. Rahul, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and to your HOD, and as well as to principal, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Sir, already we have entered the feedback form. Whether we need to
No, sir. If
correct
you are
our
not
roll
with
number,
your, no, I will make a correction, sir. Once your email ID and name is correct, then I will make changes, sir. No issue, sir.
actually we typed only the numbers, last 3 digits.
Okay,
That
no
won't
issue.
okay,
I
thank
will
you, sir.
rectify. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot.